UFC 294 has just wrapped up, and here are some of my immediate reactions. What a card, what a fight in Abu Dhabi. The energy was absolutely fantastic. The fights were absolutely incredible, and I'm going to be highlighting 4 of them for you right here, right now. But before I get into it, I'd really appreciate it if you would hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Helps out a lot with the channel, helps out a lot with the YouTube algorithm, and I really appreciate it. Co-main event. Khamzat Chimaev is an absolute animal. In his career, I've never seen Kamaru Usman get taken down except for a brief second. And maybe this has to do with size, right? At welterweight, he never got taken down. Here at middleweight, he got taken down and dominated for all of the first round. And then the last couple minutes of the second round, the first couple minutes of the third round. And all I can say is that Chimaev's grappling is absolutely incredible. One of the things that stood out to me, though, is that he does have an issue with pacing. He went balls out the first sort of few minutes of the fight to get it to the ground to try and submit Kamaru Usman, which, you know, again, the guy's never been submitted. He fought through it. He survived that first round. And then it was clear in the second and third round, it looked like he had spent a lot of his energy. So what happens when you get someone who, you know, can defend the submissions, who, you know, has a good pace, who has really good striking? Right now, he's now in line to face Sean Strickland for the title. Has really good striking and unbelievable cardio. And so what happens in a 5-round fight, he goes balls out. He doesn't get the finish in that first or second round. Now he's got 3 more rounds to contend with someone like Sean Strickland. And if it's on the feet, Sean Strickland doesn't get hit, right? We saw it with Izzy. Sean Strickland doesn't get hit. He never gets hit. So, you know, if Chimaev is going to win, he's going to have to take him down, dominate him, sub him. And he's going to have to do it quickly. Either that or learn how to kind of pace himself so that in those later rounds, he's going to be able to, you know, get that win. Because certainly against Sean Strickland, like, hitting him is going to be a challenge. And as we saw as the fight progressed, right, you know, Usman got a few things off in the second round. In the third round, I thought Usman actually won the third round. Right? So first 2 went to Chimaev, in my opinion. The third one went to Usman. And had that fight gone on, you know, it could have very well been Chimaev could have wilted because Usman has those championship rounds under his belt. So he, you know, Chimaev won those first 2. Last one I thought went to Usman. But again, if it comes to a point where he can't finish in the first round, can't finish in the second round, does he have the pace? Will he be able to pace himself in order to be able to go to those championship rounds? In the wrestling department, especially against someone like Sean Strickland, who's really hard to hit. What an amazing win. I do feel sorry for the champ. Of course, he took this on short notice, really tried to challenge himself. I would have loved to see a scenario where Kamaru Usman, you know, wins at 185, you know, becomes double champ. But it does seem to me that, you know, you never know, right? He faced one of the best up-and-coming talents. So it could be that he goes back down to welterweight, fights a couple of times, gets a few wins. But at the end of the day, I don't think he needs to do anymore, right? Like, he can do what he wants to do. He's in a position right now where if he retires, he's still one of the all-time greats at welterweight. He's done so much for the sport. A wonderful champion. And, you know, it's just one of these things that, you know, I would have loved to see that for him. But now the question is, what's Chimaev going to do, right? He obviously has this lineup, #1 contender for Sean Strickland. He goes, he fights him. What if he wins? If he wins, does that mean he goes down to welterweight and tries to be double champ? Because he was a 170-pounder, right? Does he go up to 205 and try to be double champ? I don't see too many people at middleweight that could contend with his wrestling at this point in time. The only thing would be is that can he, you know, again, the pacing. That's the major issue that I see. To the main event, UFC 294, main event, Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski. Again, what a performance by Islam. If you would have guessed how Islam were to finish Volkanovski, would you have guessed with a head kick? Nobody would have guessed that. Everybody would have thought that it would have been through his wrestling, through a submission, maybe through a decision. Nobody would have guessed that he would win via head kick. I repeat, nobody would have thought that. So it's one of these things that it made it absolutely incredible that he closed this chapter. Now again, Volkanovski, he took this on 11 days notice. He didn't have a full camp, all these things. So perhaps he could have fared better. And as I said in a previous video about Volkanovski, I thought it was a mistake for him to take it on short notice. A full camp, I think, would have been a better idea for him and probably would have made it more competitive, but you never know. Islam is that good. So what's next for Islam Makhachev? Again, my thinking is that he's going to be able to move up to, welterweight division. I don't think there's anybody for him at lightweight. I can't think of anybody in the top 10. He should fight probably Justin Gaethje. Maybe Charles Oliveira gets another crack at it. But the toughest fight he had of his career was Volkanovski, and he just proved that he can beat him, right? Who else is there in the division? Arman Sarukian's coming up. Maybe with a few more wins, we can have a conversation, right? Because Arman Sarukian gave him one of the tougher fights throughout his career as well. Gamrot, he's got some great wrestling, but we saw how Beneil Dariush beat him pretty handedly, right? So it's one of these things that I don't see there to be a lot of competition for him in the lightweight division. So now he goes up to welterweight. Maybe he fights Colby. Maybe he fights Leon. Who knows what's next? But this guy is unstoppable. His striking is phenomenal. I never would have thought in a million years that his path to victory would have been a head kick. So, first fight of the night. Sharaputdin Magomedov. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, this guy is absolutely wild. He has some of the best kicks I've ever seen in UFC history, like on the same level as Zaire Rodriguez, Edson Barbosa, maybe even better. He did some phenomenal things, super aggressive, beat up Silva there. Super interesting prospect that I can't wait to see more from. However, in his debut, it was exposed that the guy has almost no wrestling game. And I thought that was a complete shock. Because all those guys from that Dagestan region, I just assumed they had some level of wrestling game. But this guy, he has almost nothing. He has no defensive wrestling, nothing. He's super aggressive off his back. Clearly does some jiu-jitsu. Always throwing elbows, throwing strikes, different things like that. But hopefully he improves this, because a lot of time judges, even if you're super aggressive off your back, throwing up submissions, throwing up elbow strikes, all of this stuff, they will give it to the person who has top position. And so, great debut. Guy's now 12-0. I'm really excited to see what more he has to offer, but he has some crazy kicks, and this guy is going to be a menace at the middleweight division. The next fight that I was super excited to see, all the fights on this card were great with a few exceptions, but all the fights were fantastic. But the other guy I was really excited to see was Mokaev. I made a video about him a few days ago. This guy, once again, absolutely insane. He was put in guillotine after guillotine attempt. He fought through it. He was patient, small movements to take the pressure off. And of course, he fights through it. And at the end, in the third round, he gets this submission on Tim Elliott with an arm triangle. And I'm actually really surprised that he was able to pull this off, because he was really tight against the cage. A lot of time you see people kind of hop over and clear both legs to one side before they sink in the arm triangle. But in this case, he was managed to do it with pressure, with not getting all the way clear. So that was a really impressive win. And there's no doubt in my mind this guy's going to be champion at 125 pounds. Great event. Loved UFC 294. I'm so excited to see what happens with some of these up-and-coming fighters in the future. But what were your guys' thoughts? Did you think it was a good event? Did you predict the fights? And I do have to say, if you look right here, these were all the fights that I predicted that I would win. Who would win? And I was right a lot of the time. So anyway, that's everything. Once again, like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you guys thought of UFC 294. It was phenomenal. And thank you guys all for watching.